Welcome to Community Watch, and today I am so excited about the show we have. We have a lot of great shows, but this show I'm very particularly excited about. Today we're talking to the Young League of Voters. So stay with us. Community Watch starts now.
Welcome to Community Watch. Greg, how are you?
Just fine, Doctor, yourself.
I'm fine. We've got quite a crowd on the show today. I don't know if you noticed or not.
I don't think we've ever had this many guests at one time, so it's a first.
Should be interesting. We have members of the Young League of Voters. I believe that is correct. And Mallory Rogers. I have you down as sort of a leader here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Could you start off by introducing your fellow members for us?
Yes, my name is Mallory Rogers, and I'm a senior at Rome High School. I'm here with CJ Phillips, who's a junior, Adna Scudia, who's a senior, and Alana Mir, who's a junior also. And we're all members of the Young League of Voters.
Well, let me just start by trying to get a little history of your organization. What made you decide to start this group?
I recently got involved with the League of Women Voters, which is a local organization here in Rome, Georgia. And they were talking about getting some youth involved and different things we can do to increase civic engagement amongst youth. And so they reached out to me, and we decided to start a club at Rome High School that provided youth with opportunity to get involved politically and locally.
And it sounds like it was easy for you to get members, because how large is this group, counting everybody?
We have about 39 kids on the Google Classroom, and I would say we have about 30 kids who come weekly to the meetings. But there's a lot of interest in politics, especially through a nonpartisan organization. So that way we don't have to play sides. We just do everything we can to get involved politically.
All right, so I've got to say, to have a group as large as this of high school students interested in the political process is a little, Greg, is this, am I wrong here? Does that seem a little unprecedented to you?
Honestly, when she was saying that, actually, I don't know, because if we go back in history, we know, like, for instance, the Children March during the Civil Rights. We know it was high school students. We know it was college students. I just think for some reason this generation gets a bad rap when it comes to things like this. I think there are a lot of students that are interested. I just don't know if we as adults are creating or that space for them or helping them find their own space. So it's great to hear that this is something that spun out of another organization, the League of Women Voters. So I just think maybe we as some of these older people, we have to do a better job of inviting them to participate and find their own path. Because historically, youth have been involved and been part of big movements. But I just think for some reason we don't necessarily give the proper respect to the students nowadays when it comes to things of this nature. But it's exciting to hear that a high school group is very active.
Well, I want to hear some details about some of the things you've been doing as an organization. And Mallory, you can start, but I'd like to hear from all of you on the events or activities that you've created or participated in.
When we all four of us were poll workers in the August 11th runoff. I originally was a poll worker in June, and then I worked again. And that's kind of how we got started, because we were all interested in helping people vote and make their voice heard at the polls. So in being a poll worker and seeing how the Board of Elections process worked, a lot of us attended Board of Elections meetings to talk to the board and be like, this is what's happening at the polls. We need more training because there was not enough training for the August 11th day, I think. And so we talked a lot about that with the Board of Elections and to make change. And that's one of the biggest things we've been focusing on is poll working. But Adam, if you want to talk about voter registration and the recent voter registration drive that we had, that'd be cool.
Yeah, sure. So just recently at the high school, we actually had a voter registration open for many people who could vote that were of age at Rome High School. And I believe we got about 32 people registered to vote. So it was a really big outturn, and we had a lot of the school and the principal that were on board and helping us out. So it was a really good thing that we got to do. And as well as doing a lot of voter registration around town. Not too long ago, there was one just in front of the Mexican store Morelos in West Rome, just across from the Family Dollar by the subway over there. There was a taillight fixing for people who wanted to come get their taillights fixed. And then we also had the applications open so people could register. So that was also a pretty good turnout.
All right. Well, I will ask some more questions about these, but I'm curious about the taillight fixing. I mean, where did that come from?
We were partnered with a group called Romanos Unidos, and they do a lot of taillight fixing, I think to prevent from people getting pulled over. So we were partnered with them, and that went along with the voter registration drive. We've also done a lot of, I don't know if you've heard of the We Matter protests, which are local to Rome. We've been partnering with them a lot to do fish fries along with voter registration. So we've been giving out fish and then also registering voters, which has been really cool.
I'm curious to hear from Mr. CJ and Mr. Lana. What roles or what have you learned most about this experience so far? CJ, why don't we start with you? What has been one of the biggest things you've learned from this?
Well, starting with the polls, I learned a lot about like how voter suppression is still a very relevant problem within like our elections process in ways that we can work as younger people that cannot actively participate. We can voice our suggestions and improvement opportunities to the board. And then I've also learned about how we could better encourage our generation to get involved in the elections process, which could, of course, has an impact on everyone, but it helps. I don't really know how to describe it. It just encourages younger people to realize that they're a part of our society and our voting process, and that we can all have a partaking in that per se.
And what about you, Alana? What have you learned from this process so far?
I really, really love seeing everyone come out and like as a community, want to make things better, because a lot of people, one of our main focuses was local elections. We talk about those a lot. And a lot of people come out and they want to get registered because they want to see a change. And that's something that I really, really loved seeing. It was just just people from all different parts of town and different communities. They came together and we registered them, and they were just happy to be registered and they were excited to vote. And that's just something that I really loved seeing with the voter registration events that we do. So
I know Doc has a lot of questions, so I'm gonna get mine in while I can. But y'all are to be congratulated. I mean, I do think this is important, and I know from some of the students we work with, Doc, it does seem very, very odd to have such young people involved. But I encourage y'all to keep doing this, because I think it is so important that you get involved early, and your voices ought to be heard. Just because you can't vote doesn't mean you don't have a voice. Just mean you can't participate in that process, but there are other processes in which you can participate in. But I'm curious, from the Taillight event to partner with other organizations, do any of you feel like things in Rome is getting better, getting worse, or how, since you started, prior to you coming in, since you started this, how do you feel the community of Rome has responded? or where we're headed. And that's to any one of you.
I think that the city of Rome has really come together during this time. I mean, obviously, we're in a global pandemic, so this is a really scary time for everyone. But also, there's some different things racially going on. But I've seen that our community coming together for like these events, these voter registration events, and the protest, and just all the things have been very positive. I mean, there's some negative things always, but I think that I've seen a lot of people coming together, and generationally too. Like we're 16 and 17, but we're working with 60-year-old women, and it's such a positive experience to come together and make change, I think.
Well, I want to ask about the experience of poll working, because I know how important that is, but I just wondered what that experience was like for y'all, and what actually you did, just the details of what you did as a poll worker.
I can go. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you.
So all I really did, we had a training back in June, and then we worked in August. And all I did for my poll was just sign people in and give them their card to vote. And a lot of people come in like saying, oh, I didn't get my absentee ballot in the mail and I'd like to vote in person. And so you have to take care of those people as well. And people who want like provisional ballots or something like that. We do that kind of stuff. And we work with people like going through affidavits and stuff like that. So that's what I did on my polling at my precinct.
I think that we all had a very unique experience poll working because, I don't know if you know, in Floyd County, the polls ended up opening late because of some technical difficulties. So we had to extend our polling hours for 2 more hours. So we all worked a 15-hour day, it was crazy. It was a very long time, but I think it was also a very positive experience. And the people that were coming in to vote were so nice and everyone was so respectful and wearing masks. I like to see that. So there was a lot of really good things going on. But I think we had a unique experience because the whole staying open 2 extra hours.
I'm curious if you came away from that, that experience, those very long days, feeling more involved in the process than before. I mean, was it a day of education for you, or did you pretty much know what to expect?
Personally, for me, it was definitely I was really nervous going in just because we did do a 2-hour training, but it was just nervous to see how, people are going to react and things like that, because it's just a new environment, new people. So I was nervous at first to see kind of how it was, but overall it was really educational and really opened my eyes to see how the whole voting process works, because before I wasn't really educated in the whole voting process, just because I knew, hey, I'm not old enough to vote, kind of have that mindset. But it was really good because once you get involved and once you start taking that first step, it really just makes you continue going forward and going further and wanting to know more, like wanting to know what happens when this happens, or what if the poll, something messes up, like what do you do next? It's just really informative in figuring out how you can work things out. So I definitely did have a really good experience.
I'm also curious, are all of the members, or 38, I think is what you said, are they all Rome High students?
We are all Rome High School students that are part of the club, but we have several students who get involved with us outside of the club. Our friend Emily goes to Pepperell, but she's still working the polls and getting involved. But just like at Rome High School is the 38 students.
Well, we're coming up on our commercial break, so y'all stay with us, and everybody out there, y'all stay with us. We'll be back with more discussion after this break.
For 50 years, Georgia Highlands College has been a community that takes charge, At GHC, we have a mission to provide access to an outstanding education, meeting the career needs of the region, and helping our communities thrive. Every student we graduate becomes a celebration we never forget. We are more than Chargers. We are Chargers taking charge for 50 years and beyond.
And welcome back to Community Watch. We're having a discussion with the Young League of Voters, a huge organization of high school students who are involved in the political process. And we have 4 members with us today. We have Mallory, we have Adden, we have CJ and Alana. We're happy to have all of y'all with us. Also, the most guests we have ever had on this show at one time, I believe. Is that right, Greg?
That's correct.
Okay. So, y'all have been...
I'm curious, Doc.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm curious. Being that it's an election year and being that we're in school and Rome football is huge, are y'all doing things at events like that at the football games? And do y'all have a plan, I guess, to reach out and help form clubs at other local high schools?
Doing things at like community events is very difficult right now because of the pandemic. So it's really hard to like get in certain places, but safely. But we have been doing a lot of community events like on Broad Street and trying to reach the most people we can. And we've been talking to Emily, she's at Pepperell, to try to get things started in other high schools. But just because of the pandemic, it's really difficult. And also getting a political club at the high school is really difficult because we do have to remain nonpartisan, which we agree with, but it's really difficult to get it passed through administration. But Dr. Holland has been super supportive, but it's just been hard. So getting it at other schools is really difficult too.
So basically what you're saying is us adults need to put pressure on principals to
Yeah.
encourage them to let young people organize.
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Holland's been super supportive, but I know that there are other principals that are not, because we did reach out to several high schools to offer voter registration within their school, and a lot of them said no, partially because of the pandemic, but sometimes politics in the South is a touchy subject, even if you're remaining nonpartisan. So it's difficult to do things sometimes.
I'm sorry that I'm just really impressed with y'all and the organization and with what you are trying to do. And I know right now, because the day that we're taping this is the first day of early voting.
Yes.
What are some of the things that y'all have planned to do during this period of early voting?
We did write postcards. Our club wrote postcards to inactive voters in South Rome. I think it was last week, and that was fun. We also are doing a women's march to the polls on October 17th. It's in Floyd County. It's with Ms. Marcia Atkins organized it, and I think that a lot of our club is going to attend it to encourage going to the polls and voting. Yeah. Adam, if you want to talk about the postcards, you can. Yeah.
Well, that's great. Did you say inactive voters?
Yes. There are people who they are registered to vote, but they haven't voted this year. So not necessarily inactive, but they haven't voted this year.
Well, that's great. And I know that y'all are probably focused a great deal on this election period, but have you thought about the future of your organization? Because I know it's very difficult to keep organizations going, especially with, at least some of your members, including yourself, as seniors. Have you talked to your membership about how it will be moving forward? Or have you thought about that?
That is a good question. I'm gonna pass it to Alana, since she's the future of the organization as a junior. So Alana can speak on that.
Yeah, I'll probably take over or something like that. I definitely want to see the club flourish next year and with the years passing in. And we have tons of sophomores in the club, like a lot of sophomores. I'm a junior, so I'll be a senior next year, but and those sophomores will attract like the freshmen too. So yeah, I'm not too worried about the club's future. I think it'll do really well.
That's
Yeah,
good.
Doc,
And I know.
Oh, sorry.
There's Ad. Go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to add in, definitely from a senior standpoint, I definitely think that that first meeting that we had, there was a lot of diversity in the grades. So we did have like a really big group of seniors, even juniors and sophomores, and we're still trying to get in a couple freshmen in there just so they can, you know, go ahead and start get the knowledge and the base of the organization, you know, because they'll end up being the future in a couple years as well. But like CJ and Alana, who are both juniors, who are definitely really active and are kind of with us always, are definitely going to be, you know, the future of the organization next year in the club. But I'm not too worried about it. The group and the organization is in good hands.
Well, Greg, I know that you want to talk to them or ask them about how not just this group, but young people need to stay involved not only during election periods, but after elections.
Well, actually, I was just thinking, they said the future, they're not worried about the future of the program. I was thinking, I wish that was a problem we had
Yeah, I
with
know.
the college students. But yeah, actually, we was talking to Miss Hale earlier, Lucy Hale, the president of the League of Women Voters, and we were discussing after election day, because I think so many times we just focus on the election itself that we forget that after the voting is just one step in the process of preserving democracy. So what plans do y'all have after election day? Or y'all planning to stay active and focusing on other issues of preserving democracy? Somebody got to have.
That's a very good question. I feel like we've all put all this pressure on November 3rd, and then we're going to get there and we're not going to know what to do with ourselves because we've done everything for November 3rd and now it's passed. So that is a concern that I have, to be honest. We haven't thought a lot about it, but one thing that our club is very passionate about is climate change and some different environmental issues. So once November 3rd passes, we'll have a lot of free time to deal with that and deal with recycling in our school and encouraging recycling and different ideas. So that is a very good question.
Well, I definitely would encourage y'all, you know, once you get past November the 3rd, but this is a national problem. It's just not a problem we have, but I mean, we all have. It seems like we build up toward November the 3rd, and once our candidate lose, win, or we have no dog in the fight, there's no real plan after that. So I highly encourage y'all to be thinking about, because in preserving our democracy, it requires work every day, every year, not just every 4 years. So I highly encourage y'all to be thinking about, you know, other plans. And it's great to hear that y'all have other issues that you want to address. Actually, recycling and environment are important to both me and Doc. So I definitely think, as a former teacher, you see all those, all that paper just get thrown in the trash. You see all those ink cartridges. So there's definitely a lot of things that can be done. But I'm also curious though, is there something individually for each of you that kind of sparked this for you? Because a lot of youth choose to do other things. Was it something in particular? Was it from your family? Was it from just your environment? Or was it just something that's always been important to you? Do any of you have something that kind of sparked your interest in being involved in really a sense of activism?
I can answer that if you want me to. So my parents are like, they always are encouraging me to like read and like watch what's happening around me. And that's kind of like the way I was raised. So I was like super involved with like environment and stuff like that. I was always like learning and being active in that kind of stuff. And whenever the protests started happening locally at City Hall, I went to a lot of them. I went to the majority of them. But there was one in particular where they were talking about voting, and they were just like, y'all have to vote. And that's where they really put the emphasis on local voting. for like commissioners and stuff like that. And they like shared a story of this one woman who had like, she was like one of 3 at her precinct, and they were like super staffed, and she worked a really long shift, and it was just like really bad. And so I was like, like I want to try and help. Like I wonder how I can help. And I was like, I was gonna look into it later, you know. But as I was walking away, I passed the League of Women Voters booth, and I was with my friend. They were like, "Are you registered to vote?" And I was like, I was 15 at the time. It was this summer. I was like, I'm 15. I'm not registered. And they were like, well, you can sign up to be a poll worker. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I was just thinking that. Could you please tell me how? And they told me, Mallory Rogers, do you know who she is? And I was like, yes, I do. And so I DM'd her, and then she got me like from then on, we were just like, we worked with the polls, and then we like made the club and everything. So that's how it started for me, was going to protests and like already being super involved and like wanting to find a way to help like preserve democracy. So that's how I got involved.
Well, anybody else want to tell your experience of getting involved the first time?
I can go really quick. Personally, for me, I think one of the bigger influences was social media, because definitely we were all kind of stuck in quarantine at that time, like, early March, and there was a lot of people being active on social media, showing all the things that were happening throughout the world and throughout the country. And I definitely saw the need of, even locally, because a bunch of my friends like Alana, Mallory, that did attend the protests, I saw that, there was help needed, with voter suppression and everything, that they needed people help working the polls. So that's when I, talked to Mallory, talked to my friend Emily Duarte, and we, kind of took this step into filling out the applications to be poll workers. And then, that's kind of where it started. That was, the little spark in the movement for me. So definitely.
I think I'm similar to Aden. I first worked the polls in June, and I saw a lot of people getting turned away because in my precinct, we didn't really know what to do when people came in with absentee ballots, and we had several issues. And I had heard talk about voter suppression in Georgia, but then I was sitting there and I was watching it, and I couldn't do anything about it. And that was terrifying to me. So I started going to Board of Elections meetings. I got more educated on what we could do at the polls and what we couldn't do. And that's kind of when I was like, something has to change, because we should not have people turned away in Floyd County. And so I think we've made that effective change. I mean, we've gotten more poll workers who are educated and know what they're doing, and we've gone and got more poll worker training so that people know what to do. So I think that we've made a positive change, but I think it started when I was seeing people turned away.
I find that, Doc, I find it very interesting that and I have to give credit to the League of Women Voters for being able to tap in to these young people. As you see, it's a very diverse group. And I think it just goes to show that we as adults, we have to, sometimes I think we give our young students, our young people a bad rep, that we don't invite them in. And when we invite them in, we have to give them their own space to operate, not necessarily just be told what to do, but give them the opportunity to develop their own organizations, but attached to other ones for some guidance. But clearly they have ideas of their own. So I just think this is a great lesson of how we have to do a better job in reaching out to our younger people to get them mobilized.
Well, I want to, since we're almost out of time, I wanted to invite Mallory, Alana, Aden, and CJ back on the show sometime after the election to talk a little bit about the whole experience they've had, and also to talk a little bit more about what we can all do, the Young League of Voters and all of us, to talk to our no longer candidates, but actual elected public servants on what they can do to improve our communities. So thank you all. Mallory, Alana, Aden, CJ, thank you all for being here, and thank you for all that you're doing. We're very impressed.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Yes, thank you.
Well,
Yes,
thank
thank you
all.
so much.
And we are going to sign off now. Community Watch, thank you, and stay with us next time. We'll see you next week with our guest on Community Watch. So bye now.